Good evening, my name is Daniel Marks, and today I'll be talking about Black representation in television. To begin, I'm sure most of you all know what these shows are. In 2014, four different shows either debuted or had another season come up. In the top left being Orange is the New Black, to the right is Blackish, to the bottom left is How to Get Away with Murder, and on the bottom right is Scandal. So what is the common thread that holds these four shows together? Yes.
They all have black characters?
Yes, so in some varying fashion, each show has either a recurring black character or they have a black character that is the star in the role. So you have the main character like in How to Get Away with Murder, or you have Olivia Pope who was in Scandal. And all these things are pretty important because in today's society, there's a lot more diversity than how much diversity there was in past decades and eras. So with this presentation, we'll be starting with how diversity was shown in minstrelsy, and then after that, we will go into the discomfort that some scholars had with this sort of diversity, and then we'll finish up with a timeline and progression with Black television.
Am I allowed to ask questions right now or afterwards?
We will be asking questions at the end of the presentation. Thank you.
I'm gonna be devil's advocate.
So, within minstrelsy, this type of system started within the 18th and 19th centuries, pioneered by Dartmouth Daddy Rice. And this type of comedy was very degrading, but in this term, they thought it was pretty funny and they found it pretty entertaining within the 19th century. In the two pictures on the right, you see an example of minstrelsy. Within minstrelsy, there were very strong archetypes within the Jim Crow character. The Jim Crow character was essentially a character that was depicted as a black man, and he would chuckle and jive, and he would walk around, and he had the big red lips, and he had dark skin, and he could play instruments. So it just tied a lot with stereotypes that were developed within the racism and slavery eras. In turn with that came the production of some television shows. It kind of continued with this minstrel attitude, and the first television show of its kind that had an all-black cast was Amos and Andy, which debuted in 1951. Amos and Andy was previously a form of entertainment in the 1920s, which is shown in the bottom right-hand corner, that had minstrel tendencies of white people dressing in black face. And the NAACP had a problem with this, and they got the show canceled, but a lot of black people within the 1950s actually supported the show because the show was the first of its kind, and they, for the first time, saw people of their same color represented within a media space, so there was a catch-22. And scholars disagreed with this systematic thought, including Bell Hooks. She thought that it was very important for black people to have not only representation within the media, but for content creators to also be of a minority status, just because they would understand the lived experiences of black people. So now we're going to analyze the black stereotypes that scholars like Bell Hooks uncover strongly within their sociological studies. Scholars began to analyze the deep roots of representation in media, and they went through and kind of understood these 5 archetypes, including the comic Negro, who is similar to the Jim Crow, but he's more stereotyped into being funny, and it's not in blackface. Jim Crow figure is a minstrel character. This character is very known for being musically inept. He can chuckle and jive, and he likes to make the white people happy. The Pickaninny is displayed on the far right. This character is a younger black female, and she is displayed eating watermelon, which is very stereotypical. And she is prone to getting into lots of trouble, and she has a high pain tolerance, which was interesting. And you have also the tragic mulatto, who is a character that is a mixed race, but always ends up being in some type of serious situation that ends her being sad. And lastly, you have the Aunt Jemima, which is this mammy type character who's always dressed in like old clothes and is never really happy with her life. And these scholars really wanted to unravel and have a split image cut, meaning they wanted to have representation of black people shown in a positive light, and they wanted to have their own control over how they were displayed. And this kind of negates that whole understanding of white people creating these archetypes themselves. So after after Amos and Andy came a reemergence of black-led television shows within the 1970s specifically. You had TV shows like The Jeffersons, Good Times, and Sanford and Son, and all of these shows within the 1970s, although created through white people, were of top 10 status with the Nielsen status rating, and they were very popular. They had really long runs, and they're still syndicated within TV Land and other networks. And in the 1980s came this understanding of the modern black family, which was brought about through The Cosby Show in 1984. And in 1984, The Cosby Show debuted, and people like Tim Marengo from the New York Times wanted to call The Cosby Show a post-racial sitcom, meaning the sitcom was of black and white audiences. It wasn't just catered to black people like shows like The Jeffersons, and it crossed this generational gap. And this was the top-rated sitcom of the 1980s. And because of The Cosby Show's success and display of black people of higher upper middle class, you had new shows like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Family Matters come about in the 1990s. You probably all know The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was a show that was led by Will Smith, and he was a rambunctious teen trying to live with his rich family in California. And then Family Matters was also a show that had diverse characters, like you had Steve Urkel, which went against that stereotype of black men not having that intelligence factor, at least that's what some scholars said. And these two shows were very popular and were long-standing within the 1990s. But then you kind of had more targeted black programming due to the prior success of shows like The Fresh Prince and The Cosby Show. So you had the emergence of television networks like the WB and UPN. These two networks were supposedly targeted to minority audiences, and with that came shows like Moesha, which starred singer and actress Brandy, and you had the television show Sister Sister, which starred Tia and Tamara Mowry. Unfortunately, you now have this decline that occurred after the popularity of black television shows in the 1990s, and you had shows like Girlfriends and That's So Raven get canceled in the mid-2000s and were replaced with white television shows. Or in the case of Girlfriends, when UPN and the WB split up and they formed CW, there was not enough funding to have shows like Girlfriends on any longer. And you have shows like My Wife and Kids and The Bernie Mac Show that were popular within the early 2000s, but then due to funding or miscellaneous issues, they get canceled. So within the late 2000s and early 2010s, there were no black television series on broadcast television, meaning your ABCs, NBCs, and Fox and CBS. Now you have a reemergence of these television shows due to content creators like Shonda Rhimes and Tyler Perry on the scene. If you don't know, Shonda Rhimes is the content creator of shows like Grey's Anatomy, formerly Private Practice, and she's also co-creator of Scandal and the new How to Get Away with Murder series. And she is a pioneer of this new platform because she has 3 shows on one night, which has never been done before by a black writer and producer. And Tyler Perry has been pretty instrumental in the process of reemerging black content on cable network because he is the lead content creator of the network OWN, which is the Oprah Winfrey Network. So in summary, you have this kind of historical context of how the black experience has developed according to different scholarly opinions. It began with this whole minstrel idea of these white people dressing in blackface, entertaining each other, and then there became a discomfort within the civil rights era within scholarly and sociologists, including Bell Hooks, who kind of wanted to understand and degrade these thoughts. And this led to a reemergence of black television, and you had shows like Family Matters, beginning with The Cosby Show, and from The Cosby Show onward came this new modern family idea that led to shows like I showed on the first slide, including Scandal and Blackish and Orange is the New Black, that shows diverse black people in unique ways. And it'll be pretty interesting to see how these people are displayed in the next generation and decade. So, do you have any questions? No? Thank you so much.
Should I stop here?